Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. While we wait, let us know where you're zooming in from today.
What if they put like my bathroom or my kitchen?
We have Seattle, Washington, Detroit's in the house. Woohoo! Ooh, Orlando, Florida, Denver, Dayton, Ohio, Phoenix, Arizona, Denver, Atlanta, DC. Where's my California people? Atlanta, Georgia, New Orleans, Oregon, Phoenix, Massachusetts, Baltimore, New York City. Woohoo! Western Massachusetts in the house. I'm in my house too. Raleigh, North Carolina in the house. Oh, Los Angeles, there's California. Welcome. Philadelphia's in the house. St. Pete, Florida, Connecticut, Indianapolis, Vermont. Utah, there's Utah. Seattle, New Jersey. Kissimmee, Florida. Olaflor, Seattle. Yay. Hi, Lorri. It's Jesse. And Jesse, hi. Ohio. Anyone from Hawaii in the house?
I think just me.
Come on, Jesse. You're in Hawaii. Make it a little bit more livelier than that.
All right.
They're good to see you, Jesse. Washington.
We're about 2 after, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Creating a Standard Supporting a Multi-Generational Workforce. We are delighted to have you join us for the first webinar of NAA's second annual Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Awareness Week. My name is Stephanie Hurst, and I'm the Member Programs Manager for the National Apartment Association Education Institute. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping points. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the webinars page of the NAA website later this week. During the discussion, you may type questions into the chat box on your screen, and we will share them with our presenters. We have left time at the end for questions. Finally, DE&I Awareness Week is brought to you by Entrada. Laura Butler, Chief People Officer at Entrada, has sent over a brief video to welcome you today. Jesse, do you want to get that started?
All right, let's go.
Hi, my name is Laura Butler, and I'm a Chief People Officer here at Entrada. We want to welcome you to the NAA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Awareness Week. On behalf of the entire team at Entrada, we want to thank NAA for showing leadership in creating this forum. We couldn't be more proud to sponsor this event and the important conversations that will be taking place. To find out more about Entrada and our team, please visit entrada.com/careers.
Thank you, Laura and Entrada, for sponsoring this week and today's session. And now I will turn it over to NAA's DE&I Committee's Vice Chair, Kara House, to introduce today's outstanding speakers. Kara?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I am so excited to be with you to kick off this year's NAA DEI Awareness Week, and we could not ask for a more perfect day for us to start. We're celebrating Diversity Month. Today is Indigenous Peoples Day, and today is World Mental Health Day. So we are here to celebrate, we're here to learn, and we're here to engage with each other. So let's get started. It is my absolute honor to join our speakers today, Lorri Goldman and Jesse Miller, as we learn how to create a standard for and enhance your company's unified and inclusive company culture by confronting ageism and building bridges amongst every generation in your workplace. Today, we are hosted by Lorri Goldman, VP of Diversity and Inclusion for Avenue 5 Residential. Lorri leads and ensures the company's policies, practices, and systems promote equity by allowing staff to reach their full potential. Through strategic planning, crafting comprehensive training programs, conducting research, and analyzing ROI, she continues to assist teams with issues related to diversity and inclusion education and program implementation. Lorri brings 24 years of experience in property management to the table and currently serves on NAA's DEI Strategic Planning Subcommittee and NMHC's DE&I initiatives for Avenue 5. She received her BA from Chapman University, an MBA from Bradman University, and her ed degree from UMass Global. Sorry, Lorri. Jesse Miller is also hosting today. Jesse is Managing Director for Kokua Realty LLC. He is an award-winning real estate executive with more than 15 years of industry experience in asset management, program development, planning, and administration. He oversees company operations affecting acquisitions, operations, and investment at Kokua. Committed to continued education, Jesse has lectured at multiple conferences, industry associations, and academic institutions globally. As an assistant academic director at Portland State University, he held a key role in launching the Center for Real Estate's Property Management Program. Jesse's vast education includes a BSBA from University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and an MBA from City University of Seattle. Lorri and Jesse, I turn it over to you.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Cara. Let's get this show on the road. And we want to kick this off with something that everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, really? Are we going to be doing this? And the answer is yes, you are going to be doing it. We're going to start it off with a generational awareness knowledge test. So you weren't thinking, hey, I'm going to sign up. This will be fun. Now I'm going to be tested. Oh my gosh, here we go. So multiple choice. And we're going to use the chat feature in here as we go through. I'm going to give you 4 options with each question. And before you answer in the chat, just make sure I can get through all the particular options and stuff as well too. So 4 questions, let's go. Okay, question number 1. As of today, how many major generations are working within the industry? Okay, hold on. You're excited. That's awesome. But let me read the options. 4 could not even be an option, right? So here we go. Okay, so option A is 2 generations. Option B is 3 generations. Option C is 4 generations. And option D is 5 generations. So go ahead and throw it in the chat. What do you think? I'm seeing a lot of C's and I'm seeing a lot of D's and I saw a couple B's. No A's yet though. That's good. So Lorri, what do you think? More C's or more D's?
I'm thinking I am seeing more. It looks like it's about equal. Yeah. What are you thinking?
Okay.
I think
I'm more C's, 4 generations. And the
are they right?
Is 5 generations.
5 generations. They forgot Jane Fonda.
Yes. So Lorri is going to talk about those more in depth, but you've got the traditionalists, you've got the baby boomers, you've got Gen X, Gen Y or millennials, and Gen Z. So just a good tidbit of information as we get into things. Only me, family has been in housing. Okay, so next question. What year, and again, don't answer until I read all the options. What year will or did Gen Z outnumber millennials in the global population? And if you're like, what is Gen Z? I don't even know the years. Am I a Gen Z or am I a millennial or can I identify as a millennial? We're going to get into all those details too. But what year will or did Gen Z outnumber millennials in the global population? So we're not talking the US, we're talking globally here for it. So again, I'm going to give you 4 options here. Letter A is 2023, which is in like 2 months. Letter B is 2019, like it already happened. Letter C is 2024. And letter D is, who cares? I'll be retired on an island by then. What do you think? B,
They
C.
might have it. Yeah.
And no Googling too. No Googling. I know it's right next to you. Next year, see. Okay. Pretty broad spectrum, but I think you're right. I think most people have that. It is 2019. So globally, not in the US, but globally, Gen Z now outnumbers millennials in the global population. Okay, third question. In 2021, the overall US labor force participation rate was 61.7%. In 2031, according to Bloomberg, the US labor force will, I'm going to give you 4 options. Letter A, increase to about 64%. Letter B is increase to about 70%. And just for a quick definition, labor force participation is how many people who can work are actually actively working as well too. So letter C, stay around 62%, or letter D, actually decrease and slide backwards to 60.1%. Remember, 61.7% is after COVID or during COVID, right? So generally it was lower. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of D's and C's. I think I see mostly D's though. Okay, so the folks who answered letter D were correct. It's actually going to decrease to 60.1%. Anybody know why the labor force participation rate is forecasted to decrease in 2031? Can you throw any ideas out? Any opinions? Great resignation, yep. Retirement, yep. Decrease in birth rates, ooh. Boomers will retire, yep. Baby boomers retiring, folks are excited. Exiting the workforce, aging workforce, social media influencers. You all have it down. That is awesome. Let me give you some stats to kind of back that up really quick. And I don't have them up on the screen, but I wrote them down. A lot of people, you see a lot of articles like, where are all the workers and great resignation. But the reality is, that demographic of baby boomers and the retirement side, by the year 2030, right, 2030, every baby boomer in the US will be at retirement age or older. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be retired, but they'll, generally have that opportunity to. And the baby boomer cohort is massive, right? Gen X is about 2/3 the size of baby boomers. And you Gen Xers are awesome too, but just in terms of size. So that's what's really creating that vacuum of, open positions or opportunities, if you look at it in that way. Another stat I want to give you really quick is Social Security. A lot of folks are like, hey, by the time I retire, Social Security is not going to be around. I need to figure something out for my retirement. Here's the math as to why that Social Security is likely not going to work for millennials and Gen Z and maybe some Gen Xers as well. So when Social Security was created, there were 20 workers contributing to it to support one retiree. Okay, so when Social Security was created, there were 20 workers paying into that Social Security pot for one retiree. But by 2040, as these retirements continue, there's only going to be in the US 2 workers contributing to that Social Security for every one retiree. So that's how many folks are forecasted to, slated to, and rightly so. I mean, they've worked really hard to, enjoy retirement for that. So 20-1 when Social Security rolled out, and in 2040, 2 workers to 1 retiree in the US for that. So, okay, last question. By 2030, what percentage of the US workforce will be comprised, what percentage of the US workforce will be comprised of what percent of millennials and Gen Z? So the options are 52%, 61%, 68%, or 75%. What do you think?
Ooh, a lot of C's, some D's,
I see a lot of
a couple
C's
of
too.
D's.
Yep.
Ooh, and an A in there.
Yep. So mostly C's and D's is what I'm seeing as well too. The answer I've got is 75%. So you'll see some statistics where it's like That's not the case. It's more like 70%, some say 80%. We've got all our sources listed in this PowerPoint at the very end that you can take a look at. But 75% is the forecast in 2030 for the US workforce in terms of composition of workers for millennials and Gen Z. So again, another really interesting stat, as we kind of set the foundation here for this discussion. Okay, so stop. What does generational knowledge have to do with DE&I Awareness Week? Can anybody help me answer that question? What does generational knowledge have to do with DE&I Awareness Week? What do you think? Okay, I like that, Joella, getting to know the population of workers. Yeah. What else? Each generation is looking for something different and have different views. Age is part of diversity. We need to include all generations of workforce, minding the gap of generations. Generations contribute to the diversity of organizations, innovative ideas. Awesome. You are all rock stars. DEI is about everyone belonging, helps determine how we respond to diversity. You got it. Awesome. So if we take a look at that first word of the DE&I, that's diversity, the definition that I've got, and obviously there's all sorts of different interpretations and perceptions of it, is diversity is a collective of different experiences that people bring, right? So age is a component, or your generation is a component of the experiences that you've lived thus far and that you bring into the workforce or bring into groups or communities or anything like that. So that's where that relates. And one's age helps formulate the background for that diverse experience too. So I think oftentimes when people think diversity, there's maybe certain characteristics that come to mind, but not always age comes. And that's a big component and an important component, just like the other ones of DE&I Week as well. So that's why we're talking about it today. So with that, I will change it over to you, shift it over to you, Lorri. Take it away.
Thank you. So hello, everyone, and welcome. So today in our workplace, we are actually facing more diversity than ever before, and especially when it comes to multi-generational diversity. So with this comes the challenge of creating a workplace where we engage loyalty and productivity are high despite the differences among the age groups. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to cover some key terms. We're going to introduce the 5 generations and their characteristics. We're going to talk about concepts of a multi-generational workforce. We're going to talk about challenges and how to overcome those, and strategies on how to manage a multi-generational workforce. And then we're going to wrap it up with some resources. So get ready to join in the conversation more today in your chat box. And we want to really hear from you. We want to learn from you, and we want to help you embrace multi-generational workforce. So now let's get started by reviewing those key terms. Thank you, Jesse. So let's start with ageism. Ageism is how we think, feel, and act towards others based on their age. Then you have generations, which is the events and the conditions formed based on the group's experience in the formative years that impact how they see the world. So think of each group's unique experience that affected their lives and made them who they are today. Then you have multi-generational, which is consisting of relating to or involving more than one generation. And then you have multi-generational workforce, because now you're going to add in the workforce. That's people with different age groups working in the same organization. Then the last one I review is just stereotypes. So an often unfair, untrue belief that many people have about all people or things with a particular characteristic. So I want you to remember that, especially stereotype, because we're going to get into a little bit more, and I'm going to challenge you and ask you a question within a few slides. So are you ready? Let's meet the generations. So here we have it. We have our traditionalists, which represent 2% of the global workforce, and they're born between 1925 and 1945. So I don't know if you know her or not, but let's think Jane Fonda, right? She would be working with us. Then we have the baby boomers, which represent 25% of the global workforce, born between the years of 1946 and 1964. So we're going to think of Tom Hanks being in our office. Generation X, which is myself, represents 33% of the global workforce born between the years of 1965 and 1980. Then Generation Y, think of Mr. Jesse Miller over there, his generation represents 35% of the global workforce, born between the years of 1981 and 2000. And then you have your Generation Z, which we have there, my favorite, I don't know if you've seen her LinkedIn series, but it's Maitreyi Ramakrishnan. And she is a representative of Generation Z and represents 5% of the global workforce born between the years of 2001 and 2020. So believe us when we say one size does not fit all when it comes to today's workforce. So 5 generations of workforce means 5 approaches to work, right, in different styles and different perspectives. So our leaders must differentiate how to engage workforce built around the group of generations based on each with its own defining characteristics, right, because we're each different. Our values are different. Attitude shapes the formative events of our lives, so those are all different. Plus, even when you factor in the notion that each group has its differences, some are also similarities as well that must be considered in areas of talent, engagement, learning, recruiting, benefits, retention, and other driven scenarios by HR. So with that, we're going to switch over and take a look at the different generational traits for you. If you could switch, thank you so much, Jesse. So when you're looking at these different generation traits, first of all, this is this diagram we pulled from Progressive AE. So when you look at this, there's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences too. So I'm not going to read them all through, but I'm going to just pick a few from each one that's unique to that group. So traditionalists. Think of them as they have strong work ethic and loyal to the company. So who better to be the front line of your company, talking about your company and meeting with people than a traditionalist because they're loyal to the company, right? They prefer a top-down chain of command. Then you have your boomers. They are our workaholics. They value traditional instructor-led self-learning methods. Gen X, what makes us different is we view changes as an opportunity. So changes come and we're like, oh, that's an opportunity for me to learn something new. We prefer hands-off approach style of management. Then you have the millennials who prefer a collaborative work environment and prefer tech-centered training. So just right there, if you look at the boomers and the millennials, the difference of what they expect and the divide between the training. And then you have Gen Z, they like to work independently and they're knowledge seekers. So these are just a few of the generational traits that we identified for you. But what I'm going to do is ask a question. Are there any that are up there that you feel that are not up there that we feel describe your generation that we may have missed? If you want to type that in the chat, that would be great.
And just don't use names in when you chat it in. Don't say anybody's names.
Both mother 1949, 1960 are baby boomers. Wow, that's unique. Did you see that, Jesse? Both the mother was born in 1954 and the daughter was born in 1963, and they're both baby boomers.
That's crazy. Yeah. We need a name for millennials raised by boomers. Ha ha.
That is so funny. So we all work for a company, right? And companies more and more today have to look at each of the generations and identify how they contribute to the workforce. So think about it. We work for a company, but a company also has to work for us as well in responding to our expectations, our needs, our values, our views, and our work styles if they want to keep all the generations working within their organization. So after all, isn't that what diversity is? It's all about appreciating each other's life experience and the differences. And as you can see, there's a lot of different traits and differences that we all have. By the way, if you're doing any research on this, a great resource that I was able to pull some information, believe it or not, is AARP. And they're a really good resource for studying generational data, but also some of their research showed similarities between the essentials of the millennials and the boomer generation and how they often address the division, right? So they're saying it goes from this to this, and then you kind of see similarities throughout the generations gradually moving over to the one. So another poll that we pulled, that 59% of the audience taking part had experienced age discrimination in the workplace. So age discrimination is one of those things that are often not even thought about as discrimination, but it's relevant. In this study, 59% had experienced it, but only 21% had actually reported it. So with that, there's reasons why that happened. We're not sure what they are, but I have a feeling, because Jesse's going to go over something right now, they have something to do about our own unconscious bias. So Jesse, intrigue us.
Okay. So now that we've talked about some of the characteristics and traits, really quick, and I put something in the chat and I realized it just went to the panelists, but how many millennials do we have in this webinar?
We have me. Oh, there's only 10. Let's really check the group. How many Generation X do we have?
Well, I like to, as a millennial, people answered me. Gen X in the house, Gen X, B, okay. What about Gen Z? How many Gen Zers do we have in here? This will be interesting. And if you are a Gen Z but don't identify as a Gen Z, you can list that as well too.
Oh, we have one.
Yeah, okay, we got a couple. Baby boomer, that was next, Deborah. Borderline,
Yay.
I'm a boomer, okay, awesome. And how many baby boomers, yeah?
I like that, boom.
And then what about the traditionalist generation? Okay, not a lot, okay. They're all enjoying life retired right now, right? So before we jump into this next slide, what would you say are some workplace dynamic issues that have arisen based upon generations or based upon preferences with learning, right? Let's say, just as an example, a Gen Z versus a baby boomer, they're working together. Where do some of those conflicts arise? Technology, use of technology. Okay. Communication. Okay. So Alexandra, can you expand on that, the communication? I definitely agree on the technology, spelling and grammar. Yep. Responsibility, amount of information needed, use of technology.
Technology versus paper.
Yeah. Frustrated with the lack of in-person training, too frequent technology changes, idea of work-life balance. That's a great one. Pace. Ooh,
the pace.
Too. So I'm seeing technology or the implementation of it, the speed of change, communication, pace, work-life balance, pushback for change in general, wanting direction versus wanting a collaborative approach with manager, preference of communication. So these are all really, really good points. And Lorri is going to hit these points and some solutions on how we can overcome those as a group for all the different generations. But before we do that, though, I want to throw a zinger in now that we've talked about generational traits with everybody. And you're like, okay, I have an idea of what the years are. I have an idea of the traits, right? Those common traits that oftentimes people hear. Now we're going to reset the generational unconscious bias that we all have generally. And when I say all, that many of us have, not every single person. I'm not speaking on behalf of every single person, but this is something I want everybody to take a look at and just kind of let it sink in, right? Okay, so got a picture here. And these are, and I just went into Google and I typed in happy baby boomers, right? And this is what came up, right? So I put this picture here. So when you take a look at this picture, what are those traits of baby boomers that we can think of that we've already mentioned, right? You know, workaholics, so they're probably enjoying their retirement, or, you know, many are still working, you know, well into their 70s and 80s. But what other traits?
They're on vacation.
They're on vacation, right? So what other traits can we think of for baby boomers? Some positive traits for, you know, a great group of people. So hardworking, what else? And you could scroll back to the slide that we have. Wise, okay. Great mentors, dependable, okay, awesome. Traditional, okay. Diligent, great. Wisdom based on experience, yep. Knowledge based on experience. Yep, good. What else? Living in two worlds. Ooh, tell me more about that. Loyal. I like that one. What else? Experience and steady. That's great. Like to lead from the front. Okay, awesome. Dependable. Ooh, like that one. Like structure. Sophie, I like that one as well too. Conscientious, reliable, tenured knowledge informs new ways of operating. Awesome. Able to develop personal relationships. Yes, beyond a text message, right? Mentors. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so this is where I want to throw a zinger at everybody and show you this picture as well. These are also baby boomers. So this is a picture from Woodstock, and these are baby boomers. They weren't baby boomers. Well, they were baby boomers at that time frame. But do you think then at that point that this group, again, not everybody, I'm not just saying generalizing every single baby boomer, but do you think the trait of workaholic and hardworking and committed to productivity would tie to the generation here in this picture, or no? It could. Okay, Michelle, tell me more about that. Why could it? I think a lot of people are like, work hard, play hard. Okay, true. Commitment to a cause. Okay. Okay, work hard, play hard. Definitely not. It comes full circle. Ooh, I like that one. Possibly, but wasn't me. We were flower children and didn't like authority at the time in our life. At that time in our lives. Okay, that's one of the main points that I'm looking for, right? So the generation has changed. Those traits have changed in certain ways. It depends. Baby boomers were then feared war, Cuban Missile Crisis, Vietnam. Yep. Okay, so same generation of people, but different traits based upon the life experience, right, for it. So make love, not war. Okay, so awesome. Okay, let me give you another example, right? So this is baby boomers. How many of you enjoy using Amazon? And this isn't a plug for Amazon. They're not paying us or anything like that. Just using this as an example. How many of you enjoy using Amazon Prime and getting your packages either the same day or like within the next day? Okay, I do love Amazon Prime. Me, yep. Okay. Anybody not like getting their packages quickly? Where's the anticipation? Jay doesn't like getting the packages quickly. Okay, Jenica, I don't know if you're raising your hand because you don't like getting the packages quick, or you do. Amazon all the way. Hate their workers, how their workers are treated. Yeah, no, definitely seen some of that. Okay, just agreeing. I love Amazon. Okay, awesome. So my question for you is, as a millennial, I've heard, hey, you're sometimes impatient. You want things really quick. You don't know how to put your time in, right? And and that's why you enjoy like using Amazon, because you get stuff immediately. It's that immediate satisfaction, right? Or gratification.
Instant
right?
gratification.
Instant,
Yeah,
right? When it comes at you, right? So my question for people is whether I'm a millennial or I'm a Gen X or I'm a baby boomer or I'm a traditionalist. I think every single generation, if the opportunity was there to get your package delivered the same day or the next day, all of those generations and Gen Z would partake in that and would want that, right? So technology's changed, and the economy's changed that allows us to get the packages quickly. Then not only millennials and Gen Z would be quote unquote impatient with wanting to get their packages immediately, but all generations would. I mean, I think it would be few and far between outside of Jay on here that would say, no, I'd prefer to wait 3 weeks before I get my package, right? If everything was the same. You can wait, yes, Ellen. But in terms of preference, I think generally most people would want their package as quick as they could, just like all other generations. Okay, so the point of this all is to spin it around and think in a way where the generations that we're talking about do not define people. The people define and will continue to redefine the generations, right? So generations do not define people. The people define and will continue to redefine the generation as time goes on, which ties really well into this age side. So
say that one more time, Jesse. Jesse, say that one more time.
So generations do not define people. The people define and will continue to redefine the generations.
Thank you. I just wanted you to say it one more time because that is so important to understand.
Yeah,
we don't like what we see about who they say we are.
Right. A lot of folks are like, hey, I'm a Gen X, right? They put that first, right? And conceptually, I'm asking to reverse that and put yourself first, and then you're part of that cohort. So something to think about. Something conceptually that just because somebody was born during a certain time frame, they acquired skills and experience and knowledge based upon the events that were occurring there, but that doesn't necessarily form them as a person, right? For it, they gain that experience, but then as they continue to work or continue to be involved in their community, they pick up more and more experience and grow on that side. So hopefully understanding this will help you move away from that generational unconscious bias and set the foundation to develop intergenerational nexus within your own company as well. So I'm going to throw the football back to you, Lorri.
Thank you. So we really have to face it that we are all better off having multi-generational workforce. There's just so much value in what each brings to the table. So according to the Academy to Innovate Human Resources, when a company's makeup includes a range of ages, it adds value to the organization. So different generations can have distinctive ways of viewing job responsibilities. Having multiple perspectives provides the benefit of sharing perspectives within and across the teams within supporting. It also supports the innovation of that team. So when you combine a multiple perspective and diverse skills, it drives creativity and solutions to the problems as well, right? So you have different ways that people look at problems, different ways that they impact the problems, and that they attack the problem. And then our life experience influences impact how we relate to interact with others to address challenges and conflict, right? So with all those different experiences, outcomes can be different. And as a result, teams with an age diversity can offer a variety of ways to address problems. It gives us different types of problem-solving abilities. So a multi-generational workforce also provides better interacting learning and mutually beneficial mentoring opportunities. So sometimes you're mentoring this way, right? A lot of times we're missing from up to lower mentoring, but there's cross mentorship, and then even the flip mentorship, right? Because we can all stand to learn something from each other. A multi-generational workforce also provides better interaction, learning, and having different life experiences also allows for the knowledge of transfer. So what I've experienced in my life, I can transfer to you, and it's going to support yours, and vice versa. So just because I'm the oldest one in the room, Jesse, doesn't mean that I'm the smartest. You're also smart too, Jesse. He's like sitting there. Okay, so, and most importantly, having a multi-generational workforce creates meaningful relationships between associates and can also help meet associates' emotional needs and contribution to job satisfaction, right? If you're happy and you're feeling valued, you're more likely to stay. So associates are also most likely to remain loyal, right? That was one of the key things that we talked about, baby boomers, one of their characteristics, when they feel respected and valued and their unique contribution. So we all have something to contribute, and it can be uniqueness and just be open. So meet people with their generations where they're at. Like Jesse said, it's not about I'm from this generation, so you label me as that generation, but who am I as an individual, as part of that generation, and work with that, meet me where I'm at. So although multi-generational workforce is advantageous, it's overall, it's a really good thing. It does present some obstacles that you have to maneuver in the workforce. So Jesse, let's get to those.
Really quick, Lorri, can I chime in? So one thing that you had talked about was that mentoring side of it. And the technical name that I had researched it's called reverse mentoring. And I don't know if, within your apartment communities or within your companies or, whatever type of industry you're doing, but reverse mentoring can be implemented. It's not something where you have to wait and create a company policy or anything, but I'll give you an example. It's like, if we bring in a new property manager and I'm working with, this individual on, gaining a better understanding and knowledge of our industry. I need help with figuring out how to start up a TikTok and how we could use that and actually, grow our business that way as well too. So that's where that reverse mentoring, and that person, they have that experience regardless of their age, even though, they would be on my team and I, could be their manager, whatever the case is, that reverse mentoring could come in, but that, would hit the multiple perspective side, problem solving abilities, learning mentoring opportunities, knowledge transfer and retention, and unique relationships all in one policy or all in one setup that you're doing with reverse mentoring for that. So just wanted to chime in and say that. Also,
it's okay.
Diverse reverse mentoring to engage values within diverse backgrounds. Ooh, that's great, Shauna. Diverse reverse mentoring. It's getting harder to say, but very, very important nonetheless, though. So.
Exactly. And just another note when you say that, because you mentioned the properties and you mentioned different things, just remember when you're first starting a position or you're first working or collaborating with someone with a different age group or different background, before making any recommendations, you should come at that relationship humble to understand where they're at before you could take them to somewhere different. Because I know a lot of times when we start new positions, I know for me when I started my position as a trainer, I was so like, okay, this is how you do it. And I'm so excited about what I'm doing that I'm actually offending the person. And then they push back for me because I'm trying to tell them what they're doing wrong instead of understanding, meet them where they're at, understand where they're at, and then come up with ideas, not just come up with ideas just because you're there and I'm this great person and I know what I'm doing. And that's part of that generational age gap thing too, right? So we want to pay attention to that as well. But some of the things that we look at is communication issues. That's one challenge that you can have. And with that, why would that be a challenge? Why do you think communication is a challenge in a multi-generational workforce? Jesse, are you saying anything? I can't see it on mine for some reason. Texting and social media versus speaking, the communication in different ways. So you're absolutely right. So there are likely differences in preferred communication styles, different methods of communication, difference in opinion, what's appropriate. Another very good point. Sometimes the interpretation of what we're receiving, there can be a tone. Sometimes we think there's a tone based on what's saying in generations that may not be a tone. Maybe it's a word that we're using that we use in our generation that maybe it's not being used in other generations, so that can cause issues. Some individuals are sharing more than others. Oh, that's true. Perceptions versus intent has changed, absolutely. So with there's so stubbornness in older generation, there's some stubbornness in younger generation too. Let's make that equal right off the bat. I think that's an individual thing with the stubbornness. It can be broad, but let's keep it equal there. And then with availability, go ahead, Jesse. I know you have something.
So just to chime in, I noted, because I've heard this before, I like to use text messages with emojis and other people don't. So just to kind of piggyback and expand upon that in terms of, in the comment, thank you too for, any generation stubbornness. As a millennial, right, coming into the workforce, I, didn't like to pick up the phone as much because then you have to go through the, hey, how are you doing? I'm good, and then you hit this stuff, right? Whereas you could just send a quick text message. But over the years, I learned that a lot of communication is not in the actual content of the words in the text message, whether they're emojis or smiley faces or all capital or, ellipses or a whole bunch of exclamation marks. The majority of the communication is actually in how you say it, is your tone, is your cadence. And that's where the majority of the communication comes from. It's not from those words. So if you've got a conversation that's a more difficult conversation or something that is more, maybe it could be a little bit more sensitive in many ways, regardless of generation, email, text message is not the way to go. Typewriter doesn't matter. It's something that you want to either do in person or face-to-face via Zoom or, even on the phone for that matter. Just because of how much people receive in terms of communication, just from those nonverbal cues in those as well. So that could be, to that example about the stubbornness, hey, I'm a millennial, I prefer text messaging. I have to know and learn that all conversation can't just be text messaging and email. I might think it's efficient, and in many ways it is very efficient. But some of those discussions are better had either in person or on the phone or directly, just because of that nonverbal cue. And all day long, you could use all the emojis and smiley faces and, flowers and hearts and all that other stuff, but it doesn't, in my opinion, at least, it doesn't resonate, even with the same generation, as much as an in-person type of conversation, or at least on the phone does. So just want to throw that out there.
And then I just want to, make a comment. Ellen said, emails and texts don't show voice tones. I am a firm believer of that. I feel like it's the attitude or the perception or how we're feeling when we read that email sometimes. And just one note to get over that, if you have to ask someone, does this sound bad? You probably shouldn't send it. Right? Because, and just by putting, like Jesse said, emojis don't hide what you're feeling. It's still seen. It's just you can't say it this way and then put a happy face and think, oh, it's all good. They didn't misunderstand that because I put a happy face. Because even more than that, I'm Generation X. I kind of read into it like, what? And then sometimes 2-minute calls can overtake 30 minutes of back and forth text emails. Exactly. And another note there, that was a good point, Christine. She said that sometimes the email, the back and forth, because there's miscommunication going on back and forth, that it would have just been easier to pick up the phone and say it. And so that way they could ask questions, you can answer questions, and then move along. So communication issues are absolutely ways, there are challenges, but there's so many ways to overcome those. One note, again, under communication is basically what you should do is we all have certain communication styles that we like, right? So if Jesse sends me a text, and I like email, there's a problem. I have to also send back that same way that Jesse communicated with me so he knows where to get it. So it'd be like Jesse calling me and asking me a question, and I'm sending him a letter to respond. He's not going to find that communication. So that can be a breakup in communication as well.
When you say Jesse, letter, like postal mail letter, like with a stamp?
Like postal mail letter, yes.
Got it.
Because that's one thing with us right now. We have so many, I know in our organization, we have so many different things you can use. You can use Teams, you can use text, you have your cell phone, you have your work phone, you have your email. And sometimes I'm trying to get a hold of someone and I email them because that's my preference. And then they may give me the answer in text. And I'm like, wait. And then when I have to go back and look for my records, I can't find them because that's why I like email. But that's my preference and not everyone else's. And I have to accept that and meet people where they're at. So another one is negative stereotypes. So as with any diversity, people have preconceived notions. We talked about this earlier. Jesse proved that on his earlier slide. Preconceived notions about different age groups. And we can't just assume, remember, you can't just assume that this person likes things this way because that's their generation. The best thing to do is have a conversation and ask the question and then meet them where they're at. Also, varying employees' expectations. So just because you're from a certain generation doesn't mean your expectations are the same as either. So people from different generations may not hold the exact expectation, remember that, from their employment. So how people accomplish their duties is going to be different. How they learn from training is going to be different. How they expect to have performance evaluations and even feedback is different. So we have to be open to that and try and identify. But one thing about all this is knowing that these challenges that we're talking about, knowing them is the first step to making sure that we're moving towards the right way. And Jesse, was there anything in the chat? I saw it going on while I was talking. Was there anything that you wanted to highlight there for me? Did you see anything?
No, just a lot of great feedback and some examples too from everybody. One person said if it requires more than 3 emails, then a phone conversation or pick up the phone is better. So I agree. And people don't like snail mail. That's why it's probably called snail mail. But there is
really no, that's not true though. I love getting a card in the mail.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, there's times when it's preferred, right?
Mm-hmm. I do like where they said I don't like a paper trail. No evidence. You're not guilty except for your phone heard you and it's telling everybody what you said. So let's go on to how do we manage this multi-generational workforce? Let's wrap it up with that. Thank you, Jesse. So there's different ways that you can manage that. For one, encourage diverse work styles. So when we talk about that, what comes to mind is just like what's happening today because of COVID, right? We have flexible work hours, can accommodate associates, offering varied schedules because maybe they're a caregiver and they have to drop off. So just adapting and having that culture where you adapt to diverse work styles. Engage and make associates feel valued. That is huge. We talked a lot about that today. We heard different ways, but just one thing we didn't ask the question of is how do you like to be valued? Give us some ideas of how companies can show you value, that you're valuable to them in the chat. Need evidence, expression court. Food, okay. Some joiners like public recognition, others don't. That's absolutely right. So identifying how they like to be recognized and celebrated. I'm more than a number. Let me know they heard me. Let's see, love that convo. Ask what is your value, love language in the workplace, work-life flexibility, money when appropriate, a simple thank you. Other times, growth opportunities, simple saying it to the employee. Words are huge. I love someone telling me that I've done something well. That's huge. Flexible work schedules that allow to work-life balance. Praise money, additional time off. I love the additional time off. Words of affirmation, thank you notes. There's so many ways, and this is not even, these ideas are just simple ones. A thank you, and when you say thank you and you're telling someone thank you, I know I used to have a boss who would always say, thank you, you were awesome today, but I never knew what she meant by I was awesome today so that I could repeat it. So when you are saying thank you, just make sure that you identify why you're thanking them and what they did right? So other things, so let's see here. Do not generalize the generations. We talked a lot about that today, so we're going to be careful with that. Leverage each associate's unique talents. Remember, everybody has something to bring to the table, so be accepting to it and embrace all ideas, and that's going to support and strengthen your culture. Understand the needs of your associate. The best way to do that is to ask. Like the simple question of me asking you, what do you value in a relationship, or for your generation, what do you value? How hard is that to ask all associates the same thing that work on your team so you know how to celebrate? I know I used to have this one sheet that I would give to my associates that they would fill in their favorite candy bar, favorite color, holidays, favorite stars, and that way when I wanted to show them that I valued them, I would look at their list and personalize what I was doing for them. So that's a huge key with multi-generational workplaces to personalize. So employers are certainly making a strong effort to create a work environment that is inclusive. We've been talking about that. You can't talk about diversity without talking about inclusivity to everyone. But age, just remember, age diversity may be the most overlooked concept right now at that. So that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this today. And we really want to make sure that everyone takes ageisms and perceived generation gaps into account when designing your diversity and inclusion policy. And then employees should feel respected and feel that their voice and opinion, regardless of their age, is valued at your organization. So the gist of what I've went over so far is just discovering how to manage a multi-generational workplace certainly has its challenges, but it is definitely worth it and valuable. So Jesse, back to you.
All righty. Well, thank you, Lorri. We've got a little bit of time for some questions, and feel free. Kara, do we have any in the Q&A?
I am looking now and I'm not seeing any yet.
Cool. So if you have a question, feel free to throw it in the Q&A. And we'll also, if we don't get to all of them, we'll provide our email address and stuff as well too. So you could always follow up that way. No questions. Yeah, I'm not seeing any either.
Looks like we're all good. Woohoo! High five, Jesse.
That's awesome. Okay. We'll give it another minute. Maybe we've got some folks who aren't quick typers. I certainly am not. Ooh, here's one. Do you have any resources for writing a DE&I policy? That's a good one. Can we have a copy of this deck? So resources for writing a DE&I policy. Lorri, you want to cover that one? And we're going to go over
There's
we'll provide too.
There's so many different resources that you can use for it. I know that there is a toolbox that the NAA offers for us as well that's on the National Apartment Association. As I've mentioned in the other sessions that I've done in the past, most of the stuff that I found when I was writing a D&A policy, I pulled it. You Still Like an Artist, there's actually a book that says that, and I pulled it like from universities and different HR and different larger organizations that are worldwide, have really good policies that you could just see right on their websites. What comes to mind to me is like Salesforce was a real good resource that I pulled from. Different universities, like I pulled from UCLA, most of their diversity stuff is right on there, and you can look at it and refer to it. And now there's such an awesome toolbox for the National Apartment Association. Do dip into that and look and see what resources are there as well.
Great, thank you. And then another question came in. Can we have a copy of this deck? So Stephanie, that might be a question for you. Is that something that'll be available for people to download if they want it, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do that. We can send it out with the recording. So if you registered for today's webinar, you'll get a copy of the recording, and we can just include the slide deck with that.
Okay, awesome. And then it looks like we have a question that came in. Oh, not a question, but very nice, Joelle. Thank you for sharing.
Grandmother and respect. I wish elderly in housing were treated much better.
Yeah.
Here's one. It's on the question side. I was raised by maternal grandmother, and so respect the traditionalists. I wish elderly in housing were treated much better. They need people to help them learn about computers, phones, etc. That saying I grew up with aptly applies. A beautiful mind is a terrific thing to waste.
Yeah.
Terrible thing to waste.
Terrible
not a
thing.
terrific thing. Terrible thing to waste. I was like, wait. So that's a good point. I like that you set that resources and tools and things. If you have a population at your site of traditionalists, maybe that's something that you offer, training on those different things or setting them up with different stuff where you're taking time to spend time and give them just different tips and tools how to use it, different technology resources.
Totally. Okay. So we've got just a couple more slides. Want to provide these resources to you. So obviously there's a ton of different awesome communities within National Apartment Association and NAA, but you can definitely leverage the both national and affiliate resources if you're a member. And specifically, there are resources regarding parts of this conversation and topic within both the DE&I committee and the Next Gen committee. So if you've got any questions about either, I serve on both, or you can reach out to Lorri or Stephanie or Kara. And then these are some books that we pulled as well too. So take a look at those. There's also audio versions of them too, but all about, just bringing together that multi-generational workforce. So again, PowerPoint will be shared. And then obviously, lastly, most importantly, is your industry peers and partners. Maybe it's a good opportunity to do some reverse mentoring because I still need help with TikTok.
And then Jesse, really quick, I forgot another resource. SHRM is also a good resource for the person that asked about the diversity and inclusion policy.
Perfect. Okay, so here's our contact information as well. And then we'll wrap it up here. Here's our references that we pulled. We had some stats on here. And then do you want to take it away then, Steph or Kara?
I will take it away. Thank you. So before we close, I do have a couple of reminders, updates for you to be aware of. We really want you to participate in the DE&I Awareness Week Challenge. We want you to tell us what you learned from today's session. Use hashtag NAA DEI Week to share suggestions on how to create more inclusive workplaces. Next slide. Please join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern for day 2 of DE&I Awareness Week with Dr. Ryan Warner and Unmasking Microaggressions. And lastly, just a few NAA updates. We are currently calling for applications for the Diversity Leadership Program and Leadership Lyceum. Deadline to apply for both programs is November 18th. Let me actually send some links here in the chat. And then finally, next Monday, we'll begin accepting applications for the 2023 Excellence Awards and 20 in their 20s class of 2023. So please put these dates in your calendar. We want to celebrate and recognize you at Apartmentalize in 2023. Thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 2 of DE&I Awareness Week. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.